The multiverse is a tapestry of infinite realities, each with its own immutable laws. But what happens when a thread from one universe tears through into another, bringing power that shouldn't exist? When a warship designed to fight galaxy-spanning wars appears in a world still learning what it means to have heroes? The answer would reshape two universes forever. Space-time itself screamed. Above the North American continent, reality tore open like fabric ripped by an invisible blade. The rupture blazed with colors that had no names. Energies that existed between dimensions, neither light nor darkness, but something fundamentally other. And through that wound in the universe, something emerged. The UNSC Infinity materialized in low Earth orbit, all 5.7 kilometers of her. She was a titan among warships, a floating city of military might that dwarfed anything humanity had ever constructed in this universe. Her hull gleamed with Forerunner-enhanced armor plating, ablative surfaces still, crackling with residual energy from the dimensional crossing. Observation ports lined her flanks like the eyes of some great beast, and weapon emplacements bristled across every surface. Mac cannons capable of shattering moons, missile pods that could blanket continents, point defense systems designed to track thousands of targets simultaneously. Her energy shields shimmered into existence, a translucent bubble of hard light technology that wrapped around the vessel like a second skin. Inside, 17,000 souls tried to understand what had just happened. On the bridge, Captain Thomas Lasky gripped his command chair as status reports flooded in from every section. His dark eyes swept across holographic displays, showing a planet that looked like Earth but wasn't. Couldn't be his Earth. "Navigation, report," Lasky ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Slip space transit completed, sir, but..." The navigation officer's hands flew across his console. "Captain, we're not in UNSC space. Star patterns don't match any known configuration. This is Earth, but..." He looked up, face pale. "Sir, I think we're in another dimension." Before Lasky could respond, the communications officer called out. "Captain, we're being scanned. Multiple sources, ground-based and something airborne. Large vessel, heading our direction fast. Shields to full. Ready all defensive systems, but do not lock weapons." Lasky leaned forward. "I want to know everything about where we are. Get me Oni, get me engineering, and someone find Master Chief." In the Spartan 2 deck, John 1:17 was already moving. The alarm klaxons hadn't startled him. Spartans didn't startle. But the feeling of dimensional transit had been unmistakable, a sensation like being pulled through space-time itself. His Mjolnir armor's shields hummed at full charge, systems reading green across the board. The motion tracker built into his HUD showed other Spartans mobilizing throughout the ship, a small army of augmented super soldiers responding to potential threat with practiced efficiency. "Chief?" The voice in his helmet was calm, crystalline. His AI companion materialized on his HUD, data streams forming a familiar presence. "We've got a situation. We're not in Kansas anymore, or known space, or possibly even our universe." "Understood." Chief's voice carried no panic, no surprise. He'd faced the impossible before. "What do we know?" "This is Earth. Same continental configurations, same moon, same sun. But the technology reading from below is wrong. Too advanced in some areas, too primitive in others. And Chief..." The AI's avatar flickered. "I'm picking up energy signatures that don't match any known classification. Some of it reads like Forerunner tech, but twisted. Different." Chief checked his MA-5D assault rifle, confirmed the magazine was seated properly, and started toward the bridge. "Captain will want all Spartans ready for potential boarding action. There's more. Something's coming toward us, Large aircraft, but the power signature is unusual. Not Covenant, not Forerunner. Something else entirely. Through Infinity's external cameras, they watched it approach. The massive helicarrier rose from the clouds below, repulsor engines keeping it airborne, bristling with conventional weapons that seemed almost quaint compared to Infinity's arsenal. But there was something admirable about it. Humanity reaching for the stars with the tools they had, building something that would have been impossible just decades ago in their timeline. "Hail them," Lasky ordered. "Let's see if we can do this the diplomatic way." The communications channel crackled to life, and a voice came through, authoritative, measured, with an edge of controlled tension. "Unknown vessel. This is Director Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D., Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division. You are in violation of Earth's airspace. Identify yourself immediately." Lasky glanced at his XO, then back at the view screen. "Director Fury, this is Captain Thomas Lasky of the United Nations Space Command ship Infinity. We mean no harm. We've experienced an unexpected dimensional transit and are attempting to understand our situation." There was a pause. When Fury spoke again, his tone had shifted, still cautious, but with a thread of genuine curiosity. "Did you just say dimensional transit?" "That's correct, Director. We're not from your Earth. We're from somewhere else." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "Captain Lasky, I'm going to need you to power down your weapons and allow my people to board. We need to verify your intentions." On the bridge, several officers tensed. The weapons officer looked to Lasky, hand hovering over targeting controls. One word and Infinity could reduce that helicarrier to debris before they knew what hit them. But Lasky understood something crucial. They were guests in this universe, whether by accident or fate. Starting a war wouldn't get them home. "Director Fury, we'll lower our shields and allow a small delegation to board. But understand, my ship remains under my command, and my people will not be disarmed. We've just fought a 30-year war to protect humanity. We're not about to surrender the tools that kept us alive." "Fair enough," Fury replied. "Prepare to receive visitors, Captain. And Captain, welcome to Earth. Hope you're ready for an interesting conversation." As the channel closed, Master Chief stepped onto the bridge. His presence drew every eye. 7 feet of olive green armor, gold visor reflecting the holographic displays, a figure that radiated controlled lethality. "Sir," Chief said simply, "Spartan teams are ready. Whatever comes through that airlock, we'll handle it." Lasky nodded, then addressed his crew. "We're a long way from home, people, but we're still UNSC. We're still humanity's defenders. Let's show this Earth what that means." Through the view screen, the helicarrier approached, and somewhere far below, Earth's mightiest heroes were mobilizing, unaware they were about to meet humanity's greatest warrior. The multiverse had just become a much smaller place. If you want to see more crossover battles and unexpected universe collisions, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and universe you'd want to see in the comments below. Let's explore the infinite together. The docking bay of the UNSC Infinity was a cathedral of military engineering. Pelican dropships lined the walls in perfect rows, their troop bays capable of deploying entire platoons into combat zones within seconds. Scorpion tanks sat secured to the deck, their 90mm cannons pointed toward the ceiling. Warthog reconnaissance vehicles, Mongoose ATVs, and enough ordnance to level a city occupied the cavernous space. Everything was immaculate, organized, ready for immediate deployment. This was not a ship built for exploration. This was a ship built for war. Spartan force stood in formation along the docking corridor, their armor a tapestry of colors denoting different fire teams: majestic, crimson, castle. Each one was a super soldier, augmented and trained to face threats that would break normal humans. Their energy shields hummed softly, motion trackers sweeping for contacts, weapons held in loose, ready positions. They weren't aiming at the approaching Quinjet, but the message was clear. This ship was defended by warriors who had fought extinction and won. Master Chief stood at the forefront, flanked by Captain Lasky and Commander Sarah Palmer, the Spartan 4 program leader. Palmer's arms were crossed, her expression skeptical behind her helmet's raised visor. "Think they'll try something stupid?" Palmer asked quietly. "They'd be smart not to," Chief replied, his voice carrying the weight of decades in combat. "But people don't always make smart choices when they're scared." The Quinjet settled onto the deck with a precision that spoke of an excellent pilot. Its landing gear absorbed the touchdown smoothly, and the rear ramp began to lower with a hydraulic hiss. For a moment, nothing emerged except shadow. Then figures appeared. Director Nick Fury descended first, his single eye taking in everything with a tactical assessment that matched any UNSC officer. Behind him came a woman with striking red hair. Black Widow, according to the intelligence brief Chief's AI had compiled. And then a blonde man in what looked like theater costume, until you noticed the way he carried himself. That was confidence earned through combat, not pageantry. Captain America stepped onto the Infinity's deck and felt history shift beneath his feet. Steve Rogers had seen advanced technology before. He'd flown in Hydra's experimental aircraft, fought alongside Tony Stark's Iron Man armor, and witnessed Thor call down lightning from clear skies. But this was different. This wasn't one genius building a supersuit or alien magic disguised as science. This was an entire military-industrial complex that had evolved beyond anything Earth possessed. The ship hummed with power. The soldiers, if that's what they were, stood with a discipline that reminded Steve of the Army's best. But their armor was beyond anything S.H.I.E.L.D. possessed. And the figure at the center, the one in green armor with a gold visor, radiated something Steve recognized instantly. A warrior who had seen the worst humanity could face and kept fighting anyway. "Captain Lasky," Fury began, stepping forward with his hands visible and empty. "Appreciate you allowing us aboard. This is Captain America and Agent Romanoff. They're here to verify you're who you say you are and that you're not a threat to this planet." Lasky nodded respectfully. "Understood, Director. This is Commander Palmer, head of our Spartan 4 program, and Master Chief Petty Officer John 117. We're prepared to answer your questions within operational security limits." Steve's attention fixed on the armored figure Lasky had indicated. "Master Chief?" The title seemed almost understated for someone who stood like a monument to human engineering. "Master Chief?" Steve said, stepping forward and extending his hand. "Captain Rogers. I've been enhanced myself, so I understand what it means to be made into something more than you started as." Chief regarded the offered hand for a moment, then accepted it. The grip was firm, professional, but Steve felt the strength behind it, power held carefully in check. "Captain Rogers," Chief acknowledged. "You fought in World War II, still fighting now. That takes more than enhancement." "Could say the same about you," Steve replied. "That's Mjolnir armor, your AI told us. Powered assault system. How long have you been wearing it?" "Most of my life." The answer was simple, but it carried weight. Steve understood immediately. This wasn't a man who'd been given power recently. This was someone who'd been forged into a weapon from childhood, the same way Hydra had tried to create with their Winter Soldier program. But there was a crucial difference. Chief had agency. He chose to stand here, chose to negotiate rather than fight. Natasha was already moving through the bay, her trained eye cataloging everything. "These vehicles," she said, gesturing to the warthogs. "Ground transport?" "Reconnaissance and rapid assault," Palmer answered, falling into step beside her. "M12 Force Application Vehicle. We call them warthogs. Chain gun mounted on the back, seats 3, can traverse almost any terrain. They're designed for hostile environments where air support might be compromised. You've fought on multiple worlds." It wasn't a question. Palmer's smile was grim. "For 30 years, the Covenant, an alliance of alien species, tried to exterminate humanity. We fought them on hundreds of planets, lost dozens of colonies. This ship was built to turn the tide." Natasha's expression didn't change, but Steve saw her posture shift slightly. She'd been assessing them as a potential threat. Now she was reassessing them as soldiers who'd survived a war that made Earth's struggles look provincial. Fury approached one of the Pelicans, running his hand along the hull. "This is military-grade Durasteel composite? Titanium A battle plate with energy-reflective coating," Lasky corrected. "Designed to withstand plasma fire and kinetic strikes. The Covenant had significantly superior technology for most of the war. We learned to build tough or die." "And you won?" "We survived," Chief interjected. "That's not always the same thing." The statement hung in the air. Steve understood it perfectly. The weight of victory purchased with astronomical cost, the burden of survival when so many others hadn't. He'd felt it after the war, after the ice, after New York. "Director Fury," Steve said quietly, "I think we need to take Captain Lasky's people at their word. They're military, they're professional, and they're clearly not here by choice. If they wanted to hurt Earth, they could have started already." Fury's eye narrowed. "You're sure about that, Cap?" Steve looked at Master Chief, at the rows of Spartans standing ready, at the arsenal that surrounded them. "I'm a soldier, Director. I know what soldiers look like when they're preparing for war versus when they're trying to avoid one. These people are defensive, not aggressive. Besides," Natasha added, rejoining the group, "their story checks out. No Earth nation has technology like this. No known organization either. And that dimensional transit they described, SHIELD detected a massive energy spike right before they appeared. Something tore a hole in space." Fury considered this, then turned back to Lasky. "Captain, I'm going to be straight with you. Your ship appearing out of nowhere has every government on Earth ready to push the panic button. We just repelled an alien invasion last year. Chitauri came through a wormhole in New York. People are jumpy about things appearing in the sky unannounced. An invasion." Lasky's expression hardened. "Your world fought off an alien attack?" "With significant losses," Fury confirmed. "The Avengers, a team we put together, managed to close the portal and destroy the invasion force. But it was close." Chief spoke up, his voice carrying through the bay. "What were their tactics? Ground assault, orbital bombardment, infiltration?" Steve answered, recognizing another soldier seeking tactical information. "Ground assault through a fixed portal. They had flying transports, infantry with energy weapons, and large biomechanical units. We called them Leviathans. No apparent command structure once they came through. We severed the portal. They all died." "Linked consciousness," Chief said immediately. "Cut off from their command ship. The drones shut down. We've seen similar tactics with some Covenant forces." Palmer nodded. "Covenant used specialized deployment, dropped troops into population centers, overwhelmed defenses, then glassed the planet from orbit. If these Chitauri were just throwing bodies through a portal with no strategy, they weren't professional military. Sounds like a terror weapon or expendable advance force." The casual analysis of an alien invasion sent a ripple through Fury's posture. These people didn't just fight aliens. They analyzed them, adapted to them, defeated them as a matter of operational procedure. "Captain Lasky," Fury said finally, "I think we need to have a longer conversation, somewhere more comfortable than a hangar bay. Your ship, your rules, I get that. But I'd like to propose a formal meeting. Bring your command staff. I'll bring the Avengers and some SHIELD analysts. We figure out what happened, how to get you home, and how to make sure nobody does something stupid while you're here." Lasky glanced at Chief, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "Agreed, Director. We'll host aboard Infinity. Your people are welcome, but they come unarmed. This is a military vessel with active security protocols." "Fair enough." Fury extended his hand. "Welcome to our Earth, Captain. Hope you like the neighborhood." As they shook hands, Steve caught Master Chief's gaze through that gold visor. There was something there. Recognition between warriors, an understanding that transcended universe of origin. They'd both been made into symbols. Both carried the weight of humanity's survival on their shoulders. The difference was, Chief had been doing it for 30 years without stopping. And Steve was about to learn what that kind of war did to a man. The conference room aboard the UNSC Infinity was designed for war councils, not diplomatic summits. Holographic projectors lined the center of the table, capable of displaying three-dimensional battlefields, fleet movements, and tactical data. The walls were reinforced titanium. The viewports showed the curvature of Earth below, and every surface carried the utilitarian aesthetic of military function over form. This was a room where admirals had planned operations that decided the fate of colonies, where strategies against impossible odds had been forged. Now it hosted something unprecedented. Two versions of humanity meeting for the first time. Captain Lasky sat at the head of the table, flanked by Commander Palmer and Roland, the ship's AI who projected himself as a sharply dressed man from the 1940s. A deliberate aesthetic choice that made Steve Rogers do a double take. Master Chief stood behind Lasky's right shoulder, a silent sentinel whose presence dominated the room despite his stillness. Across from them sat Earth's defenders. Nick Fury, eye scanning every detail. Steve Rogers, sitting with military posture that matched the UNSC officers. Natasha Romanoff, taking mental notes on everything from body language to technology. And Tony Stark, who had insisted on coming despite Fury's protests, his arc reactor glowing through his shirt as he examined the holographic table with barely contained excitement. "Okay, before we start with the serious stuff," Tony said, leaning forward, "I need to know, how does your slip space drive work? Because I've been working on theoretical dimensional mechanics for years, and you people apparently just casually rip holes in space-time like it's Tuesday." "Mr. Stark," Fury said with forced patience, "no, it's a legitimate question. They show up with a ship that shouldn't exist, using technology that violates at least 3 fundamental laws of physics, as we understand them, and nobody else is curious about how." Roland's avatar smiled. "The slip space drive uses reconciliation, compressed space-time accessed through quantum manipulation. Think of normal space as a sheet of paper. Slip space is the same sheet folded so 2 distant points touch. We don't travel faster than light. We travel through a dimension where distance means something different." Tony's eyes lit up. That's actually elegant. The energy requirements must be insane, though. "Fusion reactors supplemented by Forerunner power cores," Roland continued. "The Forerunners were a hyper-advanced civilization that existed millions of years before humanity. We've adapted some of their technology." "Hold up," Fury interrupted. "Millions of years? You're telling me humanity had precursors?" Lasky nodded. "The Forerunners seeded life throughout the galaxy, including humanity. They also created the Halo Array, weapons designed to sterilize all sentient life in the galaxy to stop a parasitic species called the Flood. Master Chief has been instrumental in preventing those installations from firing. The room went silent. Steve leaned forward slowly. You've dealt with extinction-level scenarios before. Multiple times, Chief said quietly. The Covenant attempted genocide. The Flood would have consumed all life. The Forerunner Prometheans tried to digitize humanity. We stopped all of them, but the cost was measured in billions. Natasha's expression remained neutral, but Steve saw her fingers tap once against the table. A tell he'd learned meant she was genuinely unsettled. How many human colonies did you lose? Dozens, Palmer answered. Entire worlds glassed from orbit. Reach, our second most important planet, fell despite everything we threw at the Covenant. 4 billion people died in hours. The weight of that statement pressed down on the room. Earth's mightiest heroes had barely stopped an invasion that destroyed part of one city. These people had watched entire worlds burn. But you won, Steve said. You're still here. We adapted, Lasky replied. The Spartan program was controversial, taking children, augmenting them, training them as weapons. But programs like the Master Chief's bought humanity time. Time to reverse engineer Covenant technology, time to build ships like Infinity, time to find allies among Covenant species who didn't want genocide either. Tony was uncharacteristically quiet, studying Master Chief with new eyes. You were a child when they did this to you? Chief's visor turned toward Tony. 6 years old when I was conscripted. 14 when I received augmentations, 30 years of combat after that. That's... Tony stopped himself, visibly reconsidering his words. That's dedication. That's necessity, Chief corrected. We did what we had to do. The alternative was extinction. Fury leaned back in his chair, processing everything. Captain Lasky, I'm going to be blunt. Your ship could level every major city on this planet before we could mount an effective defense. Your soldiers are enhanced beyond anything we have, outside of a handful of individuals. You fought wars that make our problems look like neighborhood disputes. That makes you either the best ally we could ask for, or the worst threat we've ever faced. We're not a threat, Lasky said firmly. UNSC regulations are clear. We protect human colonies, not conquer them. This Earth isn't our Earth, but it's still humanity. We're not here to interfere in your affairs. We're here by accident, and we want to go home. Can you? Natasha asked. Go home, I mean. Roland mentioned the drive works through dimensional folding. Can it navigate between universes? Roland's avatar flickered. That's the problem. Slipspace navigation requires precise quantum calculations based on known stellar positions and space-time constants. This universe has different constants, nothing major, but enough that our navigation data is useless. We can make jumps, but we don't know where we'd end up. Could be our universe, could be another random dimension, could be nowhere at all. So you're stuck, Steve concluded. For now, Lasky admitted. We need to understand this universe's dimensional structure, study the energy signatures, compare them to our own data, find a way to calculate a safe jump back. That could take weeks, possibly months. Fury's expression darkened. Which means you need to establish some kind of presence here. Can't exactly hide a 5-kilometer warship in orbit. We've considered that, Palmer said. Our recommendation is to remain in high orbit, minimal contact with Earth's surface, provide our findings to whatever scientific body you trust. We're not looking to set up a base or recruit your people. We just want to solve this problem and leave. Not that simple, Fury replied. World Security Council is already breathing down my neck. China wants to know if you're an American asset. Russia's scrambling fighters. Half the UN thinks you're the vanguard of another invasion. I've got maybe 48 hours before somebody does something stupid, like launching a nuke at you. Chief's posture shifted slightly, the first sign of tension Steve had seen from him. That would be a mistake. Infinity's shields would shrug off anything short of a direct nuclear strike, Palmer added. And even then, our point defense grid would shoot down the missiles long before they reached us. But if someone attacks, we'd be forced to respond defensively. That means disabling launch sites, which means violating sovereign territory, which means this turns into a war nobody wants. Tony spoke up, his tone more serious than before. So we need to give the world a reason not to panic. Make you known instead of unknown. Show them you're here in peace. Public relations? Roland asked, genuinely curious. That's your solution? Information control, Natasha corrected. People fear what they don't understand. Right now, you're a mystery. Mysteries get shot at. But if S.H.I.E.L.D. vouches for you, if the Avengers stand beside you, if we present a unified front, that buys time. Steve nodded slowly. It's not perfect, but she's right. After New York, people trust the Avengers to handle unusual threats. If we say you're allies, most governments will accept that. Most, Fury emphasized. Not all. There are factions within S.H.I.E.L.D. itself who won't like this. People who think the only good alien is a dead alien, and they'll extend that to dimensional visitors. Hydra, Chief said suddenly. Every eye turned to him. Excuse me? Fury's voice carried an edge. Chief's AI spoke through his helmet's external speakers. Sorry to interrupt, but while you've been talking, I've been doing what AIs do, analyzing data. Infinity's sensors picked up communications traffic from your helicarrier during approach. Military-grade encryption, but nothing we haven't cracked before. Director Fury, you have a security problem. Fury stood slowly. Explain. The holographic table lit up with data streams, communications intercepts, financial records. Roland had joined Chief's AI in the analysis, both artificial intelligences working in parallel to present their findings. Multiple encrypted channels within your organization using identical cipher protocols, Roland explained. But they're not communicating with your headquarters. They're communicating with each other in a separate network. Classic cell structure. Isolated units that only connect through secure relays. Someone's running an operation inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Natasha was on her feet immediately. Show me the communication nodes. The hologram shifted, displaying a web of connections spreading throughout S.H.I.E.L.D.'s global infrastructure. Too many connections, too perfectly organized, too deeply embedded to be anything except deliberate infiltration. Steve felt ice in his veins. He'd seen this pattern before, in World War II, when Hydra had infiltrated Allied operations. How long? Hamas Kondrar asked quietly. Based on data architecture? Roland calculated. Decades. This wasn't a recent compromise. This was built into your organization from the beginning. Fury's expression was stone, but Steve saw the fury behind his eye. You're telling me S.H.I.E.L.D. has been infiltrated since its inception? Not just infiltrated, Chief's AI corrected. Parasitized. These people aren't sleeper agents. They're S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who serve two masters. And based on these communication patterns, they're preparing for something big. Tony's fingers flew across his Stark pad, pulling up his own data. Jarvis, cross-reference these patterns with Project Insight. Significant correlation, sir, his AI responded. The secure network Roland identified has unusual access to Insight's codebase and deployment protocols. What's Project Insight? Lasky asked. Fury's jaw clenched. Helicarrier-based targeting system, Uses satellite surveillance and algorithm prediction to identify threats before they act. Still in development, not operational. It's operational, Tony said grimly, showing his screen. And according to this data, it goes live in 72 hours. 3 helicarriers with linked targeting systems capable of eliminating 1,000 targets per minute. Steve felt the pieces falling into place with horrifying clarity. It's not a defense system, it's an assassination network. And whoever's running this shadow organization, Natasha added, voice cold, is about to use it to eliminate anyone they consider a threat, which, based on typical infiltrator psychology, means anyone who can oppose them. Palmer looked at Lasky. Sir, this is their internal problem. We shouldn't... They just told us about it, Lasky interrupted. Which means they're trusting us with intelligence that could destroy their organization. Director Fury, we came here by accident, but we're still UNSC. We're still sworn to defend humanity from threats. If you're asking for help, you have it. Fury met Lasky's gaze for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Then we've got 72 hours to root out an organization that's been hiding inside S.H.I.E.L.D. for decades. Stop them from launching a weapon that could kill millions, and do it without tearing Earth's defenses apart in the process. Master Chief stepped forward. We've faced worse odds. Steve stood, extending his hand across the table. Then we do this together. UNSC and Avengers, your Spartans, our team. Whatever this organization is, they made a mistake. What mistake? Tony asked. Steve's expression hardened, the same look he'd worn storming Hydra bases in 1945. They revealed themselves while we have a warship full of super soldiers in orbit. Chief accepted Steve's hand. 2 super soldiers, separated by universes, but united by purpose. 72 hours, Lasky said. Let's make them count. The Triskelion rose from the Potomac River like a monument to modern security. 3 massive towers connected by sky bridges, housing the nerve center of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s global operations. From this building, Director Fury coordinated intelligence networks spanning every continent, managed assets on 6 continents, and oversaw technologies that kept Earth safe from threats both terrestrial and beyond. It was a fortress of glass and steel, a symbol of humanity's dedication to protecting itself. It was also, Master Chief now knew, thoroughly compromised. The Spartan II stood in Infinity's observation deck, studying holographic intelligence reports that Roland and Chief's AI had compiled over the past 6 hours. Names, faces, communication patterns, financial transfers, a tapestry of conspiracy that reached into every level of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s command structure. What made it brilliant was its patience. Whoever had orchestrated this infiltration hadn't rushed. They'd built slowly, carefully, recruiting or planting agents across decades until the organization designed to protect Earth was secretly controlled by those who would dominate it. Hydra, Steve Rogers said quietly, standing beside Chief. The captain had been reviewing the same data, his expression growing darker with each revelation. It has to be. The cell structure, the long-term infiltration, the philosophy of control through fear. It's exactly how they operated during the war. You fought them, Chief stated. Not a question. For years, they were the Nazi Deep Science Division, but they were more than that. Johann Schmidt, the Red Skull, believed humanity needed to evolve beyond freedom, that order and security required absolute control. We destroyed their bases, captured their scientists, dismantled their networks. Steve's hands clenched. Or so we thought. Organizations like that don't die, Chief observed. They adapt, go dormant, wait for the right moment. And Project Insight is that moment. Steve pulled up the schematic of the helicarriers, massive flying weapons platforms, each armed with targeting systems capable of killing thousands per minute. they're not just infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. They're turning it into the weapon they always wanted. Global surveillance, preemptive elimination of threats, all under the guise of protection. Chief had seen it before, in different forms. ONI's morally questionable operations. The Spartan 2 program's kidnapping of children. Desperate measures justified by existential threats. But the line between protection and tyranny was razor thin. The question is, who's leading them now? Schmidt's dead, according to your files. Probably someone who believes in his vision without the megalomania, Steve replied. Someone patient, embedded deep, trusted. He looked at Chief. Your AI said they found communication nodes throughout S.H.I.E.L.D. leadership. How high does it go? Before Chief could answer, the observation deck doors opened. Tony Stark entered, followed by Natasha Romanoff and a man Chief hadn't met yet. Broad-shouldered, professional bearing, the kind of person who carried authority naturally. Chief Cap, meet Alexander Pierce, Tony said, his tone carrying an edge Chief couldn't quite identify. Former S.H.I.E.L.D. director, current head of the World Security Council, and according to Jarvis's analysis of the communication patterns, either the unluckiest man alive or in serious need of better subordinates. Pierce's expression remained calm, but Chief's motion tracker picked up the slight tension in his posture. Mr. Stark has an interesting theory that roughly 40% of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s personnel are secretly working for a Nazi splinter group. I came to hear the evidence before we start a witch hunt that destroys the organization. It's not a theory when you have the data, Natasha said coolly, bringing up holographic displays. Communication intercepts, financial records, meeting schedules. Someone's been running a parallel command structure inside S.H.I.E.L.D. for decades. The question is whether you're part of it or just blind to it. Bold accusation, Agent Romanoff. Pierce's voice remained level. I've spent my career building S.H.I.E.L.D. into what it is today. Suggesting I'm somehow working against it is statistically probable, Roland interjected, his avatar materializing beside the holographic display. Apologies for the interruption, but artificial intelligences deal in probabilities, not politics. Based on access patterns, approval hierarchies, and resource allocation, there's a 73% chance you're either directly involved in the conspiracy or have been manipulated to enable it. Neither option reflects well. Pierce's jaw tightened. An AI's probability assessment isn't proof. No, Chief agreed, stepping forward. But communication intercepts showing your personal authorization codes used to access Project Insight's targeting algorithms are, along with financial transfers, from accounts you control to known arms dealers, and meeting records showing you've had private conversations with individuals we've identified as part of the infiltration network. The room temperature seemed to drop. Pierce looked at each face, calculating odds, measuring threats. Chief recognized the expression. He'd seen it on Covenant commanders when they realized their tactical situation was untenable. You can't prove any of this, Pierce said finally. Digital evidence can be fabricated. You're an unknown element appearing out of nowhere, making accusations based on analysis that could be completely wrong. The World Security Council will never accept. They don't have to, Steve interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of command. Because we're not going through official channels. If Hydra's embedded this deep, going through proper procedures just alerts them that we know. By the time trials and investigations conclude, they activate Insight and eliminate everyone on their list. So, what's your plan? Pierce asked. Storm the Triskelion. Start arresting S.H.I.E.L.D. agents based on computer analysis? That's not justice, Captain. That's a coup. It's triage, Natasha corrected. You cut out the infection before it kills the patient. We've done the analysis. We know Project Insight launches in 68 hours. We know the targeting algorithms include political leaders, scientists, military commanders, anyone who could oppose authoritarian control. And we know that if those helicarriers go active, millions die. Pierce's expression hardened. You're talking about civil war within Earth's primary defense organization, while a dimensional warship sits in orbit. Do you understand the panic that would cause? Which is exactly why Hydra built their plan this way, Steve said. Make the cost of resistance seem higher than the cost of compliance. But I've seen that strategy before, and I know how it ends, with freedom dead and people living in fear. Stepped closer to Pierce. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell us everything you know about Project Insight, who's really running it, and where they're vulnerable. Because right now, you have one chance to be on the right side of what's coming. And if I refuse? Master Chief moved with the speed that only Spartans possessed. One moment he was standing 5 feet away. The next, his armored hand gripped Pierce's shoulder with enough force to make the man wince. Then you're either enemy command or collateral damage. UNSC protocols are clear. When facing infiltration, you isolate suspected elements and continue the mission. Captain Rogers is giving you the opportunity to help. I'd recommend taking it. Pierce's composure cracked. You're threatening a member of the World Security Council. That's an act of war. No, Tony said, pulling up more data on his tablet. That's a UNSC super soldier preventing a war criminal from escaping justice. See, while you were busy being offended, Jarvis finished tracing your financial networks. Turns out you've been funding projects that make Project Insight look friendly. Biological weapons research, enhanced interrogation black sites, and, this is my personal favorite, attempted recruitment of the Winter Soldier program. Natasha's head snapped toward Pierce. You knew about the Winter Soldier? More than knew, Tony continued. He authorized continued operation of the program after S.H.I.E.L.D. supposedly shut it down. There's a whole facility in... He checked his tablet. New Jersey still running, complete with cryo storage and memory suppression technology. Which means somewhere out there is a brainwashed super soldier assassin who's probably on standby right now. Steve's expression went cold. The Winter Soldier is real? Very real, Natasha confirmed. Soviet program, later continued by whoever inherited their assets. Enhanced strength, decades of training, no memory of his past. I've encountered him twice, barely survived once. Chief's tactical assessment shifted immediately. An enhanced operative with no moral restraints, programmed for assassination, potentially targeting them right now. We need to assume he's been activated. If Pierce is Hydra, and Hydra knows we're investigating, they'll send their best asset. He's right, Natasha said. Winter Soldier doesn't fail. If he's coming, we need to be ready. Pierce smiled thinly. You're paranoid, seeing conspiracies in shadows. Even if Hydra existed within S.H.I.E.L.D., which I'm not admitting, you think they'd just send one man against Avengers and Spartans? They sent one man against me multiple times, Natasha replied. And he nearly succeeded every time. Don't underestimate what a trained assassin can accomplish. Roland's avatar flickered urgently. Hate to interrupt the intimidation session, but Infinity's perimeter sensors just detected a Quinjet launching from the Triskelion without authorization. No flight plan filed? Stealth systems active, heading toward our position. That's impossible, Pierce said. Nobody can access S.H.I.E.L.D. aircraft without proper clearance. Unless they have clearance, Steve realized. Hydra's not waiting. They're making their move now. Chief released Pierce and activated his comm. Bridge, this is Master Chief. All Spartan teams to alert status. Unauthorized aircraft inbound. Prepare for potential boarding action. Captain Lasky's voice came through immediately. Understood. Defensive systems active. Do we have permission to disable the craft? Steve grabbed Chief's arm. There might be innocents aboard, pilots following orders without knowing what they're flying into. Chief considered for exactly 2 seconds, the time it took to calculate risk versus reward, civilian casualties versus mission success. Negative, Captain. Allow approach, but seal all access points except primary hangar. Funnel them into a kill zone if they're hostile. Acknowledged. Palmer's already moving Spartan teams into position. Tony looked at Pierce. Last chance. Tell us what we're facing, or we assume everyone coming through that door is Hydra. Pierce's expression revealed nothing, but his silence was answer enough. Detain him, Steve ordered. Somewhere secure where he can't communicate with anyone. If this goes wrong, we'll need him alive to unravel the rest of Hydra's network. 2 Spartan fours appeared at the door with perfect timing. Palmer had anticipated the need. They moved to flank Pierce, who didn't resist. He knew better than to fight super soldiers in powered armor. As they escorted him out, Pierce looked back at Steve. You're making a mistake, Captain. You think you're fighting for freedom, but you're about to start something that will tear S.H.I.E.L.D. apart and leave Earth defenseless. When the next invasion comes, remember that you chose idealism over security. I'll take that risk, Steve replied. I've seen what security without freedom looks like. I've helped destroy it once. I'll do it again. The doors closed, leaving Chief, Steve, Tony, and Natasha in the observation deck. Through the viewport, they could see the unauthorized Quinjet approaching Infinity, a small craft dwarfed by the massive warship's hull. Palmer's got her people ready, Chief said. 40 Spartans in that hangar. If this is the Winter Soldier, he's walking into a meat grinder. Don't underestimate him, Natasha warned. I've seen him kill a dozen armed agents in under a minute. Enhanced strength, cybernetic arm, trained by the best Soviet operatives. He's not just dangerous, he's efficient. Then he's never faced a Spartan, Chief replied simply. The Quinjet entered the hangar bay, landing with precision despite the lack of communication. The rear ramp lowered, and for a moment, nothing emerged. The Spartan fours held position, weapons trained on the opening, energy shields charged and ready. Then a figure appeared. He wore tactical gear, a mask covering the lower half of his face, and his left arm gleamed with metal plates and exposed circuitry. Advanced cybernetics that probably matched a Spartan's strength. He carried weapons with the casual familiarity of someone who'd used them for decades, and he moved with the controlled economy of a perfect predator. The Winter Soldier had arrived, and standing behind him, descending the ramp with military precision, came 24 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Except Chief's IFF system wasn't reading them as S.H.I.E.L.D. It was reading them as unknowns. Hydra had just boarded the Infinity. The hangar bay was silent except for the hum of energy shields and the soft whir of Spartan armor servos. 40 Spartan foos stood in a semicircle around the Quinjet, weapons trained with absolute precision on the 24 armed figures descending the ramp. The tactical situation was clear. Intruders were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing super soldiers in a confined space with no cover. Any conventional force would have surrendered immediately. The Winter Soldier didn't even slow down. Commander Palmer stood at the front of the Spartan formation, her MA-5D assault rifle aimed center mass at the masked figure. "That's far enough," she called out, her voice amplified through her helmet speakers. "Identify yourself and state your business aboard this vessel." The Winter Soldier stopped, head tilting slightly as he assessed the opposition. His visible eyes showed no fear, no hesitation, just cold calculation. Behind him, the Hydra operatives fanned out with practiced efficiency, maintaining spacing that suggested extensive tactical training. "We're here for Alexander Pierce," the Winter Soldier said, his voice carrying a slight accent. Russian, Chief's AI identified. Release him and we leave peacefully. Not how this works, Palmer replied. You launched unauthorized from a supposedly secure facility, ignored all hails, and forced your way aboard a military vessel? That's not peaceful. That's hostile action. One of the Hydra operatives stepped forward, older, gray hair, the bearing of someone who'd commanded soldiers before. Commander, I am Agent Brock Rumlow, SHIELD Strike Team Leader. We're here on official business. Pierce is a member of the World Security Council and has diplomatic immunity. You're holding him illegally. We're holding a suspected conspirator in an organization that's been infiltrated by hostile elements, Palmer corrected. And you just proved our point by staging a rescue operation instead of going through proper diplomatic channels. Rumlow's hand drifted toward his sidearm. Last chance, Commander. Release Pierce or we take him by force. Palmer didn't move, didn't flinch. Just stood there in her armor, surrounded by 40 other Spartans, facing down 24 men with conventional weapons. I fought Covenant elites in close quarters. Sangheli are 8 feet tall, faster than humans, stronger than humans, and trained from birth for combat. You're not elites. No, the Winter Soldier said quietly. But I'm not human either. He moved. The speed was impressive. Enhanced reflexes turning him into a blur of motion as he drew a sidearm and fired 3 shots at Palmer's head in under a second. But Spartans were faster. Palmer's energy shields flared as the rounds impacted, absorbing the kinetic energy with barely a flicker. She didn't even step back. Cute, Palmer said. Then she opened fire. The MA-5D roared to life, 60 rounds per minute of armor-piercing ammunition stitching toward the Winter, not soldier. He moved with inhuman grace, diving behind a warthog and coming up with a rifle that must have been hidden under his coat. The Hydra operatives scattered, seeking cover behind crates and vehicles, returning fire with coordinated precision. It didn't matter. Spartan energy shields were designed to absorb plasma fire from Covenant weapons. Conventional bullets were annoyances. The Spartans advanced in textbook formation, overlapping fields of fire, covering each other's movements, closing the distance with mechanical efficiency. Their weapons found targets with computer-assisted accuracy, punching through cover and body armor with equal ease. 3 Hydra operatives went down in the first 5 seconds. All units non-lethal if possible, Palmer commanded. We need them alive for interrogation. The Spartans adjusted instantly, switching from center mass shots to limbs and extremities. The Hydra operatives fought back with desperate courage, but it was like infantry facing tanks. Every position they took was overrun. Every tactic they tried was countered. Every shot they fired was absorbed by energy shields, while return fire found flesh. The Winter Soldier was different. He fought like someone who understood he was outmatched and compensated with sheer tactical brilliance. Used the environment, rolled a fragmentation grenade under a Pelican's landing gear, forcing 3 Spartans to scatter. Blind fired around corners with perfect accuracy, hitting weak points in armor joints. Grabbed a downed operative's body as a shield, then hurled it at a Spartan's face to obscure sensors for critical seconds. But even brilliance had limits against 40 super soldiers. Fire Team Castle, flank left, Palmer ordered. Majestic pressure center. Crimson cut off his escape routes. The Spartans moved like a machine, coordinating through neural interfaces and battle networks that let them fight as one organism. The Winter Soldier found himself being herded, options narrowing, walls closing in. He made a break for the Quinjet, probably planning to escape or detonate some kind of explosive, and nearly made it. Master Chief dropped from the catwalk above. 7 feet of Mjolnir armor and decades of combat experience landed directly in the Winter Soldier's path. Chief didn't give him time to react. Grabbed the cybernetic arm with one hand and twisted, using the Winter Soldier's momentum to slam him into the deck plating hard enough to crack the metal. The Winter Soldier responded instantly, using his organic arm to draw a combat knife and thrust toward Chief's neck seal, one of the few vulnerable spots on Mjolnir armor. Chief caught the blade with his free hand, armor's energy shields absorbing the edge, then delivered a knee strike that would have shattered a normal human's ribcage. The Winter Soldier grunted, but didn't go down. Enhanced durability, Chief's AI noted, comparable to Spartan augmentations, but achieved through different methods. The cybernetic arm was impressive too. Servos and artificial muscles generating strength that matched Chief's armor-assisted grip. They grappled in silence, two engineered soldiers testing each other's limits. The Winter Soldier tried an arm bar that would have dislocated a normal shoulder. Chief's augmented skeleton didn't budge. Chief attempted a throw that should have sent his opponent flying. The Winter Soldier shifted weight and rolled with it, coming back to his feet. "You're good," Chief acknowledged. "But you're alone." 40 Spartan rifles aimed at the Winter Soldier's head. The fight was over. The Hydra operatives were down, some unconscious, some wounded, all disarmed. The Winter Soldier stood in the center of a kill zone, surrounded by super soldiers. His escape route cut off. His mission failed. He didn't surrender, didn't lower his weapon, just stood there, calculating odds, looking for angles that didn't exist. "Stand down," Chief ordered. "You've lost. Don't make us kill you." For the first time, emotion flickered in the Winter Soldier's visible eye. Not fear, but something else. Confusion, like he was trying to remember something important but couldn't quite grasp it. Then a voice echoed through the hangar bay, transmitted from the bridge. "All units, this is Captain Lasky. We're detecting unusual energy signatures building in the Quinjet's reactor. Recommendation, evacuate immediately." Chief's AI ran the numbers instantly. "It's a bomb. Reactor's been rigged to overload. Probably Dead Man's switch. If the mission fails, destroy the evidence." Palmer was already moving. "Clear the hangar. Get behind blast doors." The Spartans retreated in perfect order, dragging wounded Hydra operatives with them. Chief grabbed the Winter Soldier by the cybernetic arm, less for capture than to save his life, and hauled him toward the exit. The assassin struggled, then seemed to realize Chief was trying to help, and stopped resisting. They made it through the blast, doors with 3 seconds to spare. The Quinjet's reactor detonated with enough force to buckle the hangar deck, blow out the exterior doors into space, and send a shockwave through the entire section. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, containing the damage, but the hangar was a wreck. Vehicles destroyed, deck plates twisted, the cold vacuum of space visible through the breach. Chief checked his HUD. No Spartan casualties. 7 wounded Hydra operatives secured, and one very confused Winter Soldier sitting against a wall, mask torn off by the blast, revealing a young face that looked wrong for someone who moved like a decades-old operative. Steve Rogers appeared at the end of the corridor, running toward them with Tony and Natasha close behind. He stopped dead when he saw the Winter Soldier's face. "Bucky?" Steve's voice was barely a whisper. The Winter Soldier looked up, and for just a moment, recognition flickered in his eyes. "Who the hell is Bucky?" Then his expression went blank, again wiped clean like someone had hit a reset button. His hand moved toward a concealed weapon. Chief's fist connected with his jaw, calculated to stun without killing. The Winter Soldier slumped, unconscious. Steve stood frozen, staring at the face of his best friend from 1943, preserved impossibly young, somehow alive after 70 years. "Cap?" Natasha approached carefully. "You know him?" "James Buchanan Barnes," Steve said hollowly. "Bucky, he was my best friend. He fell from a train in the Alps in 1945. I watched him die." "He didn't die," Tony said, pulling up data on his tablet. According to the files Natasha recovered from the Black Widow program, the Soviets found him, barely alive, enhanced him, brainwashed him, turned him into their perfect weapon. He's been in cryo storage for decades, woken up for missions, then put back on ice. He doesn't remember being Bucky Barnes because they've been erasing his memory for 70 years. The implications hung in the air like a physical weight. Hydra hadn't just infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. They'd taken Steve's best friend, destroyed his mind, and turned him into an assassin. It was a violation so profound that even Chief, who'd been turned into a weapon as a child, felt anger stirring in his chest. Palmer checked the wounded Hydra operatives, verifying their restraints. "Sir, we need to get these prisoners to interrogation. If they're Hydra, they might know about Project Insight's deployment schedule or where their command structure is hiding." "Agreed," Chief said, then looked at Steve. "Captain, your friend needs medical attention and deprogramming. But first, we need information. Can you handle that?" Steve's expression hardened, grief transforming into determination. "Yeah, I can handle it." He knelt beside the unconscious Winter Soldier, beside Bucky, and his voice dropped. "I'm sorry they did this to you, but I'm going to fix it, I promise." Lasky's voice came through the comm system. "All personnel, this is the captain. Damage control teams are sealing the hangar breach. Medical teams to Section 7. And someone tell me what just happened down there." "Hydra happened," Chief replied. "They tried to rescue Pierce and destroy evidence. They failed on both counts. We have prisoners, including their primary asset. Recommend enhanced security on all detention areas and full lockdown until we verify every person on this ship." "Already in progress," Lasky confirmed. "And Chief, good work. Bridge out." Natasha was examining the unconscious Hydra operatives, checking their equipment. "These aren't just agents. Look at their gear. Top-tier tactical equipment, specialized weapons, coordinated training. This is Hydra's elite. They wouldn't send their best unless something critical was at stake." Pierce, Tony realized. He's not just a member of the conspiracy. He's probably running the whole thing. They risked exposure to get him back, which means he knows everything about Project Insight. "Then we interrogate him first," Palmer said. "Find out where Insight's control systems are, who else is compromised, and how to shut it down before those helicarriers launch." Chief looked at the damaged hangar, at the unconscious operatives, at Steve kneeling beside his brainwashed friend. 12 hours ago, the Infinity had arrived in a strange universe. Now they were neck-deep in a conspiracy that threatened this Earth's freedom, fighting alongside heroes to stop an organization that should have died 70 years ago. The mission had changed. They weren't just trying to get home anymore. They were going to tear Hydra out by the roots. "Get the prisoners to secure cells," Chief ordered. "Medical support for anyone injured. And someone wake up Pierce. It's time he explained exactly what Hydra's planning." As Spartans moved to execute orders, Steve carefully lifted Bucky's unconscious form. "I'll take him to medical," he said quietly. "He deserves better than a cell." "He tried to kill us," Palmer pointed out, not unkindly. "Because they made him," Steve replied. "Because someone took a good man and turned him into a weapon without his consent. That's not justice. That's slavery." He looked at Chief. "You understand that, don't you? What it's like to be turned into something you didn't choose?" Chief was silent for a moment, then nodded. "I do. And you're right. He deserves a chance." He activated his comm. "Bridge, this is Chief. Have medical prepare for an enhanced patient with extensive neural conditioning. He's a prisoner, but treat him as a victim, not a criminal." Acknowledged, the medical officer responded. Steve carried Bucky toward the medical bay, and for just a moment, Chief saw something in the captain's posture, the weight of grief, the burden of survivors' guilt, the desperate hope that maybe, somehow, he could save one more person from the war. Chief knew that feeling. He'd carried it for 30 years, watching Spartans fall, unable to save them all. "Come on," Natasha said, breaking the moment. "We have prisoners to interrogate and 64 hours until Hydra launches their kill switch. Let's make sure they don't get the chance." They moved through Infinity's corridors, Spartans and Avengers working together, united against a common enemy. Hydra had made a critical mistake. They'd revealed themselves while humanity's greatest warriors, from 2 universes, stood ready to fight. Now they were going to learn what happened when soldiers refused to surrender. The medical bay of the UNSC Infinity was a sterile symphony of humming machinery and soft light. James "Bucky" Barnes lay unconscious on a diagnostic bed, sensors mapping his nervous system and cybernetic augmentations. The scans revealed a horrifying tapestry of trauma, neural pathways scarred by decades of forced memory suppression and rewriting, cybernetic implants interfaced directly with his motor cortex, and physiological modifications that pushed human limits. Steve Rogers stood vigil, his face a mask of quiet fury and profound sorrow. "How bad is it?" Dr. Glassman, Infinity's chief medical officer, manipulated a holographic display showing the neural activity. "His enhancements are on par with our Spartan 3s, less powerful than a Spartan 2, but with a greater degree of cybernetic integration. The left arm is a marvel of engineering. It's directly neurally linked, giving him fine motor control and strength that rivals Master Chief's armor-assisted output." "And his mind?" Natasha asked, her voice softer than usual. "Systematically shattered," Glassman said, pointing to highlighted brain regions. "There's evidence of repeated electroconvulsive therapy, chemical memory suppression, and a crude form of neural programming. His long-term memory is a Swiss cheese of erased events. They left only tactical data, languages, and operational protocols. The man you knew is buried under 70 years of psychological demolition." "Can you fix him?" "We can try. Our understanding of neuroplasticity is advanced, and we have experience treating traumatic brain injuries from combat. But this isn't damage from a concussion, Captain. This is an architectural project. On building it without causing further harm, it will take time we may not have." Steve's fist clenched. "Make the time, whatever you need." In a secured interrogation chamber 2 decks below, a different kind of surgery was underway. Alexander Pierce sat in a stark metal chair, restrained at the wrists and ankles. The room was monitored by 3 separate AI systems: Roland, Chief's AI weapon, and Jarvis, ensuring no data manipulation or outside communication. On the other side of the transparent alloy wall, Master Chief, Commander Palmer, and Tony Stark observed. "He's a professional," Natasha said, joining them. "Trained to resist interrogation. Standard techniques won't work." "We're not using standard techniques," Tony said, holding up a data pad. "We're using Infinity's sensor suite. Full-spectrum biometrics, pupil dilation, micro-tremors, thermal fluctuations in the facial capillaries, even synaptic activity readings from the non-invasive neural scanner. He can control his words, but his nervous system will give him away." "Bring in the first piece of evidence," Chief ordered. The door hissed open, and a Spartan 4 escorted a sullen, bruised Brock Rumlow into the observation room. Pierce's eyes tracked him, his expression unchanged. But the biometric monitors spiked, a surge of adrenaline, a flicker of recognition. "Agent Rumlow has been very cooperative," Natasha announced, her voice cool. He confirmed your authorization codes for the Winter Soldier's activation. He provided details on the New Jersey facility. He's singing like a canary about Project Insight's true targets: political dissidents, journalists, enhanced individuals who refuse to register, and every member of the Avengers. Pierce remained silent, but a muscle in his jaw twitched. "The calculus is simple, Pierce," Tony said, leaning toward the intercom. "Rumlow and his team are facing life in a supermax for treason and attempted assault on a sovereign vessel. But they're pawns. You're a king. The World Security Council will want someone to blame for this mess. We can offer Rumlow and his men a deal: reduced sentences, protective custody, in exchange for your head on a platter. Or you can talk to us first, and maybe we convince them you were coerced." It was a bluff, but a convincing one. Pierce finally spoke, his voice dripping with condescension. "You think this is about blame? About prison sentences? Your children playing with toys you don't understand. Project Insight isn't a weapon of tyranny. It's the scalpel for surgery this sick world desperately needs." He leaned forward, restraints rattling. "After New York, the world saw that we are not alone, and we are not safe. The old rules don't apply. Freedom? National sovereignty. They are luxuries we can no longer afford. My organization, the True Shield, the one that has been working in the shadows since its founding, understands that to protect humanity, you must sometimes control it. Insight identifies threats before they become threats. It removes problems before innocent people die." "You're talking about preemptive murder." Steve's voice crackled over the intercom from the medical bay. "I'm talking about preventative medicine," Pierce shot back. "How many died in New York because we waited for the threat to arrive? How many will die in the next invasion because we were too noble to make the hard choice? Insight guarantees peace, a world without war, without conflict, because those who would start it are eliminated in their sleep." Master Chief's voice cut through the ideological argument, cold and pragmatic. "Your system has a flaw." Pierce raised an eyebrow. "Enlighten me." "Who decides the threat?" Chief asked. "You built an algorithm. Algorithms are written by people. People have biases, agendas, fears. You claim it removes threats, but your own data shows the first targets are political opponents and enhanced individuals who won't submit. That's not protection. That's consolidation of power. The algorithm is objective. It's your prejudice coded into math." Tony interrupted, pulling up the targeting list. "It's targeting a 16-year-old kid in Queens because his genetic profile suggests a 0.03% chance of developing uncontrolled energy projection. It's targeting a journalist in Jakarta because her articles have a 62% statistical correlation with anti-government protests. This isn't security. This is automated fascism." For the first time, Pierce's calm facade showed a crack. The biometrics showed his heart rate climbing. "You have the list?" "Rumlow gave us the encryption key," Natasha lied smoothly. "We have everything. The targets, the launch codes, the location of the primary control center, not the Triskelion, but the old World Security Council bunker in upstate New York. The one with the satellite uplink hardened against EMP." Pierce paled. That was the truth, and his body screamed it. The sensors confirmed a massive stress response the moment Natasha mentioned the location. "Got it," Tony whispered triumphantly. "Bunker in upstate New York. Jarvis, start satellite recon." "Already scanning, sir. I'm detecting shielded power signatures matching Insight's reactor profiles at these coordinates." Chief turned to Palmer. "Assemble fire teams Crimson and Castle. Prepare for a ground assault. We need to seize that bunker and shut down the control systems." "Negative," Steve's voice came through, firm. "If we assault it, they'll launch the helicarriers early. We need to disable the command link and stop the carriers simultaneously. A two-front war. He's right, Natasha said. We split forces. One team takes the bunker. The other disables or destroys the helicarriers before they can go weapons-free. We have 53 hours until scheduled launch, Roland reported. But if Pierce is compromised, Hydra will accelerate the timeline. As if on cue, alarms blared through the ship. Roland's avatar flashed red. Captain Lasky to all stations. Long-range sensors are detecting energy spikes from 3 locations matching S.H.I.E.L.D.'s classified helicarrier construction facilities. Repulsor engines are powering up. Project Insight is launching now. On the main display, satellite feeds showed 3 massive helicarriers breaking through cloud cover over the Atlantic, the Arctic, and the Pacific, rising on columns of blue energy. They were moving into pre-programmed patrol patterns, their linked targeting systems beginning to sync. "They're early," Palmer snapped. Pierce smiled, a thin, victorious curve of his lips. "Of course they are. Did you think I was the only contingency? The moment I was captured, the failsafe activated. Insight is live. In 20 minutes, those carriers will reach optimal altitude. Their weapons will interface with the targeting satellite network. And then, the world will be made clean." He leaned back, the picture of serene triumph. "You have a mighty ship, Master Chief. But you can't be in 3 places at once. Stop the bunker and the carriers complete their mission. Stop the carriers and the bunker can launch them again. This is checkmate." Master Chief looked at the displays, at the 3 blips representing floating fortresses of death. He looked at Pierce's smug face. Then he looked at Tony and Steve on the comms. "No," Chief said, his voice flat and certain. "It's not." He activated the ship-wide comm. "Captain Lasky, this is Master Chief. Initiate Operation Trident. Recall all Spartan teams to the launch bays. Prepare the Infinity for combat deployment." "Chief," Steve's voice was urgent. "What's the plan?" "The Infinity doesn't need to be in 3 places at once," Chief said, already moving toward the door, Palmer and the others falling in behind him. "We have 10 frigates docked in our belly. We have 500 Spartan 4s. We have the most powerful Mac cannons ever built by humanity." He stopped at the doorway, looking back at Pierce through the observation glass. "You built 3 helicarriers to rule the world from the sky." On the bridge, Captain Lasky understood. A fierce grin spread across his face as he gripped his command chair. "Roland, sound General Quarters, release the frigates, power up the Macs, and someone get me a firing solution on those 3 overgrown party balloons." Chief's final words to Pierce were delivered with the cold certainty of a soldier who had shattered alien empires. "We brought a fleet. The UNSC Infinity became a hive of orchestrated fury. Klaxons blared not in alarm, but in purposeful declaration. The ship's internal docking clamps disengaged with thunderous clangs that resonated through the hull. From her cavernous ventral bays, 10 Strident-class heavy frigates slid free like knives being drawn from a sheath. Each was 1/3 of a kilometer of warship, dwarfing the approaching helicarriers, their own Mac cannons and missile batteries powering up. On the bridge, Captain Lasky stood like the eye of a storm. Tactical holograms filled the space, painting the globe with threats. "Status of the frigates. Frigate Groups Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie report green across the board, Captain." Roland's avatar reported, crisp and military. "They are holding at defensive positions around Infinity, awaiting assignment." "Assign them. Group Alpha, the Atlantic carrier. Bravo, the Pacific. Charlie, the Arctic. Intercept and disable. EMP warheads on the Archer pods. Precision. Mac strikes on repulsor emplacements and primary weapons. I want them dead in the water, not vaporized. We need evidence and prisoners." "Aye, sir. Firing solutions being calculated." Below, in the main launch bay, Master Chief stood before an assembled force. Rows of Spartans stood at attention in their multicolored armor, alongside squads of ODSTs in their black, menacing gear. Pelican dropships and larger Albatross transports powered up, their engines a deafening choir. Commander Palmer addressed them, her voice amplified. "Listen up. The enemy has launched 3 flying fortresses with one mission: execute thousands of innocent people based on a corrupted algorithm. Our mission is to stop them. Spartan fire teams will board via gravlift and hardpoint insertion. ODSTs will drop in pods to secure key engineering sections. Your objectives are the bridge, the weapon control centers, and the reactor rooms. Force a surrender, but if they fight, you are weapons free. Protect the civilians on the targeting list. That is priority 1. Steve Rogers, now in his full Captain America uniform, stepped forward alongside Black Widow and a suited-up Tony Stark. The Avengers will lead the assault on the primary command bunker in New York. We'll shut down the brain. You cut off the hands. Chief gave a single nod. The plan was set. A simultaneous, overwhelming assault on 4 fronts. It was a tactic born of the Human Covenant War. When faced with multiple strategic threats, apply superior force and coordination to all of them at once. "Chief," Steve said, offering his hand again. "Good luck." "Luck is not a factor, Captain," Chief replied, clasping the hand. "See you when it's done." As the Avengers hurried to their own Quinjet, Chief turned to his own transport, a modified Pelican, callsign Badger 1, laden with Fire Team Crimson, 4 Spartan Fees, the best of the best. Their target, the lead helicarrier over the Atlantic, the one designated Insight 1. "Bridge, this is Badger 1. Ready for launch." "Cleared for launch, Chief. Frigate Song of the East will provide covering fire and suppress point defense. Godspeed." The Pelican shot from the Infinity's bay like a bullet, diving into Earth's atmosphere. The ride was brutal, the hull glowing red with re-entry heat, but the pilot held it steady. In the troop bay, Chief checked his equipment. He'd swapped his MA-5D for a BR-85 battle rifle for precision, and his M6H for a railgun sidearm. On his back, he carried a heavy weapon familiar to any Spartan, a Spanker rocket launcher, loaded with twin-guided missiles. 30 seconds to gravlift insertion, the pilot yelled. "Frigate is engaging." Through the forward viewport, the scale of the battle became terrifyingly clear. The Shield helicarrier was a behemoth, but the UNSC frigate Song of the East was a predator. Blue streaks of MAC rounds flashed silently in the vacuum, slamming into the helicarrier's shield matrix, which flared and strained. Archer missiles streaked in, detonating in EMP bursts that washed over the vessel, making its lights flicker. The helicarrier's own defenses awoke. Quad cannons swiveled and spat fire, but they were designed for aircraft and missiles, not warship-grade armor. The frigate's point defense lasers sliced the incoming fire apart. "Go! Go! Go!" The rear ramp opened to howling wind and chaos. Below was the helicarrier's main deck. Instead of repelling, the Spartans simply stepped out. Their armor's internal gravlift systems activated, controlling their descent amidst the flak and debris. They landed in a perfect diamond formation, weapons sweeping the deck. The scene was pandemonium. SHIELD agents loyal to Fury and unaware of Hydra's depth were fighting Hydra operatives in SHIELD uniforms. It was a civil war on a floating battlefield. The arrival of 7-foot-tall armored giants from the sky momentarily froze both sides. "UNSC, stand down and drop your weapons," Chief boomed through his external speakers. "This vessel is under our control." A Hydra commander, recognizing the greater threat, screamed, "Open fire! They're with Rogers!" Weapons turned toward the Spartans. The Spartans moved. Chief's battle rifle barked 3 times. 3 Hydra operatives fell, their body armor punctured by the high-powered rounds. Fire Team Crimson flowed around him like water, their movements a blur. They used the deck's structures for cover, their energy shields flickering as they absorbed hits, returning fire with impossible accuracy. They weren't just shooting, they were surgically dismantling the Hydra resistance, targeting weapons, communication packs, and leadership. "Chief, we've got heavy weapons, port side." One of the Spartans, Kodiak, called out. A Hydra team had mounted a manned turret, its heavy caliber rounds beginning to chew across the deck toward them. Chief didn't break stride. He raised the spanker, let the targeting system lock, and fired. Whoosh crack. The rocket snaked across the deck and struck the turret's shield generator. The explosion was contained but devastating, turning the weapon into scrap and throwing the crew backward. "Push toward the bridge," Chief ordered. "Crimson 2 and 3, break off and secure the primary weapon control below decks. Disable the targeting uplink." They advanced like a force of nature. To the loyal SHIELD agents, it was like watching angels of vengeance descend. To Hydra, it was a nightmare made metal. Inside the helicarrier's command bridge, the Hydra commander, a man named Singh, watched the tactical display with mounting horror. The UNSC frigate was systematically disabling his ship. The armored demons were cutting through his best men like wheat. And the Infinity herself now loomed in high orbit, a silent sword of Damocles. "Launch all fighters, every last one. Target that frigate and those boarding teams," Singh yelled. "Sir, the hangar bays are contested. Loyalists are fighting our pilots." "Then blow the internal bulkheads. Seal them in. I don't care if you have to vent the entire bay to space. Stop them." Before the order could be carried out, the main bridge doors, reinforced titanium, blew inward. Not from explosives, but from a single massive kick from an armored boot. Master Chief stood in the doorway, his green armor streaked with carbon scoring, his visor glowing in the dim light. Behind him, the bodies of Hydra's elite guard lay still. "Commander Singh," Chief's voice was devoid of emotion. "The inside algorithm is corrupted. Your ship is disabled. Stand down your crew, now." Singh drew a pistol, his hand shaking. "You don't understand. This is for humanity's future." "You're repeating Pierce's lies," Chief said, taking a step forward. The other Hydra officers backed away, their resolve crumbling. "The future you're building is a graveyard. Stand down." The young communications officer, her face pale, stood up. "I stand with SHIELD. I stand with Captain America." She slammed her hand on a console. A ship-wide broadcast echoed through the helicarrier. "All hands, this is Ensign Ramirez on the bridge. The Hydra coup has failed. Lay down your arms. Repeat, lay down your arms." A ripple effect went through the ship. The sounds of fighting began to die down. Singh looked around, saw his support evaporating. With a snarl of rage, he raised his pistol at the ensign. He never got to fire. Chief was across the room in a blur. He grabbed Singh's wrist, crushed it with a sickening crunch, and disarmed him before the man could scream. He held the commander up, a limp puppet. "It's over." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. The UNSC frigates, with their vastly superior firepower and targeting systems, had crippled the other 2 helicarriers. Spartan and ODST boarding teams were overcoming resistance, aided by SHIELD loyalists who rose up the moment they saw a chance. In upstate New York, the story was different. The Avengers had met a fortress. The Hydra bunker was built into a mountain, with layers of armor, energy shields, and automated defenses. Tony's repulsor blasts and Steve's shield were making slow progress against the main gate, while Natasha and Hawkeye, who had joined them, dealt with swarming Hydra troops. "We need heavier artillery." Tony grunted, firing a concentrated beam at the door. A new voice crackled over their comms. Heavier artillery, as requested. Above them, the sky darkened. Not by clouds, but by the shape of the UNSC Infinity, descending through the atmosphere like a floating continent. It hovered over the mountain, its shadow swallowing the valley. On the bridge, Lasky gave the order. Single Mac round, low yield, precision strike. Target the shield generator emplacement, grid G7. A brilliant lance of light speared down from the Infinity, striking the mountain peak. The explosion was silent from vacuum, but the ground shook. The bunker's shimmering energy shield flickered and died. Shield is down, Roland confirmed. Their door is now just a door. Tony smirked inside his helmet. Okay, that's some pretty heavy artillery. Come on, Cap, let's go say hello. The battle for Earth's soul was turning. Hydra's perfect, coordinated plan had been shattered by an unexpected variable. A military from another universe that didn't play by the rules of heroes and villains, but by the uncompromising doctrine of total victory. And at the heart of it all, Master Chief transmitted from the captured bridge of Insight 1 to Captain Lasky. One carrier secured. Casualties minimal. The enemy's will is broken here. Lasky looked at the tactical board. 2 more carrier signals were blinking, indicating surrender. The bunker was under Avengers' assault. He allowed himself a single, satisfied breath. Good work, Chief. Now, let's go help clean up the rest. The mountain bunker's silence was deeper than the absence of sound. It was the quiet of a machine whose heart had been stilled. The massive blast doors, now scarred and shieldless, hung open like a slack jaw. Inside, the Avengers moved with lethal grace through corridors lit by emergency strobes. The only resistance coming from sporadic, desperate Hydra holdouts whose coordination had collapsed with the loss of the helicarriers and Pierce. In the central control room, a different kind of operation was underway. Tony Stark's fingers danced across a holographic interface, wrestling with the last vestiges of the Insight algorithm. Jarvis, isolate the core targeting protocol. I want it scrubbed, not just disabled. Working, sir. The system has multiple redundant layers. It is fighting back. There appears to be a non-standard AI core buried in the architecture. A what? Natasha asked, covering the door with her stingers raised. An artificial intelligence, but crude, aggressive, less a mind and more a rabid dog on a chain. Designation, Zola. Steve froze, the name hitting him like a physical blow. Arnim Zola, a Hydra scientist. He was captured after the war, worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. for us. The betrayal, decades old, tasted fresh and bitter. Well, his digital ghost doesn't want to go quietly, Tony muttered. A sinister, pixelated face flickered on every screen in the room, a caricature of a man, rendered in ancient data. Captain Rogers. The face buzzed, the voice synthesized and hollow. A monument to the past, standing in the way of the future. Insight was my final equation, the only path to peace. Peace through murder, Steve shot back, his shield held tight. Through clarity, Zola corrected. Humanity, left to its own devices, breeds chaos. I have calculated the outcome. Order must be imposed. And you relics and interlopers, are a variable I could not foresee. The digital eyes seem to focus on a data stream. The ship from beyond, its arrival, an incalculable probability, a true infinity variable. With a final surge of malicious code, Zola's program executed its last command. Not to launch weapons, but to transmit. A burst of encrypted data containing every dirty secret of Hydra's infiltration, every blackmail file, every hidden agent's identity, and the full technical schematics of Project Insight, exploded outward to every public and private news network, government server, and social media platform on the planet. The screens went dark, then lit up with a simple message. Truth. "He's burned it all down," Natasha whispered, understanding instantly. "He's exposing Hydra, but he's also exposing S.H.I.E.L.D. The whole world is about to see everything." On the bridge of the Infinity, Captain Lasky watched as the same data flood hit his communications arrays. Roland analyzed it in milliseconds. "Captain, this is a global information cascade. Every covert operation, every assassination, every hidden base for the last 70 years is being broadcast. Governments are going to fall. S.H.I.E.L.D. as an institution is finished." Lasky's mind raced through the strategic implications. This was their dead man's switch. If they can't rule from the shadows, they'll drown the world in chaos and rebuild from the ashes. "Roland, can we contain this?" "The data is propagating through too many civilian nodes. A complete blackout is impossible without catastrophic collateral damage to global infrastructure." "Then we mitigate. Work with Jarvis and Chief's AI. Flood the networks with our own data packets. Confirmations of Hydra's defeat. Casualty lists that show minimal civilian loss and the secure surrender of the weapon systems. We frame the narrative around victory, not scandal." Back in the bunker, Steve looked at the stunned faces of his team. The scale of the collapse was unimaginable. "Fury was right," he said, his voice heavy. "The world's going to need a lot of help putting itself back together." Aboard the secured Insight 1, now floating peacefully under the guard of the Song of the East, Master Chief received a priority transmission. It was from the Infinity's medical bay. "Chief, it's Steve. It's about Bucky. He's awake. And he's asking for you." Chief found Barnes in a secure observation room, not a cell. He was unrestrained, dressed in medical fatigues, staring at his own cybernetic hand as he opened and closed the fist. The vacant, programmed look was gone, replaced by a pain so profound it was etched into every line of his face. Steve stood outside the glass, his own pain a mirror. The doctors? They used a non-invasive neural scanner from the Infinity to map the memory blocks. They couldn't restore what was taken, but they could show him the scars, the places where memories should be. He remembers the procedure, the ice, the missions, the faces of the people he was made to kill. He remembers being the Winter Soldier. Chief entered the room. Barnes looked up. His eyes were clear, haunted, but present. "They told me you're like me," Barnes said, his voice rough. "Made into a weapon as a kid. Told me you fought for 30 years, seen whole worlds burn." He looked back at his metal hand. "Does it ever get easier, carrying the weight of what you've done?" Chief was silent for a long moment. He had no platitudes, no lies. "No," he answered truthfully. "The weight is part of the armor. You learn to carry it, or it crushes you. You fight to ensure the weight wasn't for nothing." Barnes nodded slowly, as if this was the only honest answer he could accept. "I want to help. I know things. Hydra safe houses, bank accounts, secondary protocols Zola might not have released. I can't take back what I did, but I can help clean up the mess they made." Steve stepped in, hope warring with caution on his face. "Bucky, you don't have to." "I do, Steve," Barnes interrupted, finally looking his old friend in the eye. "You got a second chance. Let me have mine. Not as the Winter Soldier, not as Bucky from Brooklyn, as someone who can help." He turned to Chief. "Your people are organized. You have rules, a chain of command. Put me in it. Use me." Chief assessed him. The raw skill, the knowledge, the burning need for redemption. He looked at Steve, who gave a slow, reluctant nod. "Very well," Chief said. "You will be attached to ONI oversight for debriefing. Your information will be verified. You will follow orders. This is not a pardon, it's a post. Do you understand?" Barnes stood up straighter. "Yes, Chief." 24 hours later, the world was reeling but not falling apart. The shocking revelations had caused panic, protests, and the immediate dissolution of S.H.I.E.L.D. by a terrified World Security Council. But the simultaneous, visual evidence of the UNSC Infinity and its fleet decisively ending the threat, the sight of Captain America and the Avengers working alongside the towering Spartans, provided a strange, stabilizing anchor. In a repaired hangar bay on the Infinity, a final council was held. Present were Lasky, Palmer, Chief, Steve, Tony, Natasha, a weary Nick Fury, and Maria Hill. A hologram displayed a fractured global intelligence landscape. "S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone," Fury stated. "No sorrow, just fact. Hydra's exposed, but so is every intelligence apparatus on the planet. We're back to square one with aliens, enhanced individuals, and gods know what else lurking in the dark." "You're not back to square one," Lasky said. "You have us." All eyes turned to him. The UNSC's primary directive is the preservation and defense of humanity. This Earth is not our Earth, but it is humanity. We cannot in good conscience depart while you are vulnerable. Our slipspace drive recalibration is progressing, but it will take months. In that time, he brought up a schematic. It showed the Infinity in geosynchronous orbit, linked to a network that included the 3 disabled helicarriers, now being stripped of weapons, the Infinity's frigates, and global communication nodes. We propose a temporary, transitional defense pact. The Infinity will serve as a neutral orbital command and control center. We will share non-military technology, medical, agricultural, material science, to help stabilize the global shock. We will provide a security umbrella against extraterrestrial threats while you rebuild your own institutions. Our Spartans and your Avengers can operate as a joint rapid response force. Tony whistled. "You're offering to be Earth's big brother from another universe." "We're offering a framework for order based on transparency and mutual defense," Lasky corrected. "The World Security Council has already provisionally agreed. They don't have much choice." Steve studied the plan. It was military. It was top-down. It was everything he'd fought against with insight. But it wasn't born of control. It was born of protection. And it had an exit strategy. "And when your drive is ready, when you can go home, then we leave," Lasky said simply. "The technology and knowledge stay. The protection evolves. We will have helped you build something better. Something that doesn't need a warship from another dimension to guard it." It was a monumental offer, a stopgap that could prevent global anarchy. Fury was the first to speak. "I don't like having my planet's security in the hands of an off-world military, but I like chaos and invasion even less." He sighed. "I'm in." One by one, the others agreed. It was practical. It was necessary. As the meeting broke up, Steve approached Chief. "You'll be staying up there?" he asked, nodding toward the ceiling and the ship beyond. "For now, the mission has evolved. The objective remains: protect humanity." Steve offered a faint smile. "You know, for a guy from a universe of endless war, you've brought us something closer to peace than we've had in a long time." Chief looked out the viewport at the blue marble of Earth below. "Peace isn't a state of being, Captain. It's a moment of quiet between battles. Our job is to make that moment last." He turned to leave, a green giant against the stars, his path home still uncertain, his duty eternally clear. For now, this universe was under his watch, and Master Chief never failed to watch. The silence of the Infinity's observation deck was a profound thing. It was the quiet of deep space, insulated from the hum of the ship's fusion cores and the murmur of her crew. Master Chief stood before the viewport, Earth a majestic swirl of blue, white, and green below. The orbital docks were already active, a flurry of construction and repair as UNSC engineers, under strict oversight, worked to dismantle the offensive systems of the captured helicarriers and integrate their sensor nets into a new, transparent global early warning system. The mission was in a new phase, consolidation. But in the shadow of victory, the oldest enemy stirred. Not Hydra, not aliens, but the corrosive, universal constant of fear. Roland's avatar materialized beside him, his usual crispness edged with concern. Chief, we're intercepting encrypted traffic from multiple national intelligence agencies. The initial relief at Hydra's defeat is curdling. They're calling it the orbital sovereignty crisis. They see the Infinity not as a protector, but as the ultimate high ground, a gun to the head of every nation on Earth. Project their most likely course of action, Chief said, his voice a low rumble. Covert alliances. A push to develop asymmetric countermeasures, trying to reverse engineer our shield tech from debris, theorizing about planet-bound MAC installations. The more pragmatic factions are advocating for a crash program to steal slipspace technology to ensure we can't leave or that they can follow. Chief had expected this. Oni had prepared psychological profiles for first contact scenarios. Phase 1, awe and gratitude. Phase 2, calculation and anxiety. They were entering Phase 2. His console chimed with a priority alert from the brig. Alexander Pierce requested a final audience. Chief considered ignoring it, but intel from a defeated enemy commander was still intel. Pierce looked diminished in his cell, stripped of his suit and status, but his eyes still held a sharp, calculating light. He didn't stand as Chief entered. Come to gloat, Master Chief? To see the architect of order brought low by a soldier from a fairy tale? I came to listen, Chief stated, standing impassively by the door. A thin smile played on Pierce's lips. You think you've won. You've stopped Insight? You've exposed Hydra. You've positioned your ship as the benevolent guardian. But you've made the same mistake we did. You've given them something to fear. We are not a threat. You are a threat, Pierce insisted, leaning forward. You are the ultimate, unaccountable authority. Your Captain Lasky answers to no parliament, no president, no people of this world. You operate on directives from a government that doesn't exist here. That is the very definition of tyranny, even if you wrap it in a flag of mercy. The world will never truly accept you. They will tolerate you until they can. Replace you. And in trying to prevent that, you will become exactly what they fear. Chief had heard this argument before, from insurrectionist leaders in the outer colonies, the paradox of protective power. Our presence is temporary. Our intent is clear. Intentions are meaningless. Only power and consequences matter. You've created a power vacuum by destroying S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, and you've filled it with yourselves. Nature abhors a vacuum, Master Chief. Something will fill it. Maybe not today, but soon. The words echoed in the Spartan's mind as he left the brig. Pierce was a monster, but monsters could still speak truth. The real battle for Earth's future was no longer against Hydra, but against the suspicion they had sown and the fear their own presence now cultivated. This fear manifested physically just hours later. A coordinated, simultaneous cyber assault hit the Infinity's external data feeds and the public information network Roland had established. It wasn't an attempt to breach core systems. That was impossible against Roland and Weapon. But a propaganda bombardment. Doctored footage spliced together, showing Spartans firing on what appeared to be civilians, MAC rounds striking cities, footage actually from the Human Covenant War, and fabricated orders from a UNSC high command discussing the pacification of Earth. The source was untraceable, routed through 100 dead-end servers, but the sophistication screamed state-level resources. Not Hydra, they were broken, but a nation or a coalition seeing an opportunity. They're trying to turn the public against us, Palmer fumed on the bridge. To make us the villains so they can justify kicking us out, or worse, attacking us. The assault is too precise, Roland analyzed. It requires intimate knowledge of our public communication protocols and Earth's media landscape. This is an inside job. Someone with access. A chilling suspicion took root. Fury had been right. S.H.I.E.L.D. had been everywhere. Its ashes contained embers that were now blowing in the wind. The call came from Steve Rogers on the ground. "Chief, we've got a problem. A big one. The doctored footage is playing on every major network. There are riots outside the former Triskelion. People are scared. And I'm hearing whispers. Some of the World Security Council members are calling for an emergency vote to demand the Infinity's immediate departure." "Acknowledge," Chief said. "What is your assessment?" "It's a power play. Someone's trying to scare the Council into giving them emergency powers to deal with you. We need to find the source and expose it, fast." "We have a lead," Chief said, an idea forming. He turned to Roland. "The propaganda attack required our public data stream specifications. That data was part of the packet we shared with the World Security Council's technical liaison." "Affirmative. The liaison is Dr. Elliot Shimoda, appointed by the Japanese representative. Cross-reference his financials, communications, and known associates against Hydra's exposed records and our own surveillance of post-Hydra power brokers." The answer came back in seconds. "Match found. Shimoda has received substantial, untraceable deposits over the last 48 hours. His secure line has placed repeated calls to a private server array registered to a shell corporation. That corporation has a single shareholder, Wilfred Malik." The name appeared on the main screen with a dossier. A billionaire industrialist, former World Security Council advisor, and, according to a buried Hydra file just decrypted by Weapon, the patriarch of a family that had secretly funded Hydra's science division since the 1950s. Hydra's banker. He hadn't been part of the military coup. He was the man who paid for it. And now, with his investment collapsing, he was executing a contingency plan. Discredit, the new power, sow chaos, and buy time for his own ascension. "He's in Geneva." Natasha's voice came over the comm, having accessed the same data. "At his family estate. He thinks he's still in the shadows." "He's about to learn otherwise," Chief said. He made a decision. This required a scalpel, not a hammer. A public spectacle would only feed the fear. This needed to be quiet, definitive, and the evidence delivered to the right people. "Captain Rogers, we have the target. We will extract him and the evidence of his manipulation." "I'll meet you there," Steve said immediately. "Negative. Your presence would be noted. This is a black operation. Spartans are trained for this. We will go." There was a pause. Steve understood. This was the dark, necessary work that heroes in the light couldn't do. "Bring him in, Chief." Minutes later, Master Chief and Fire Team Crimson were streaking through the upper atmosphere in a stealth-modified Pelican, its hull coated in a refractive polymer that bent radar waves. Their destination, a fortified chalet in the Swiss Alps. The insertion was textbook: high altitude, low opening drop. 4 Spartans and Chief fell like stones through the thin, cold air, their armor's thermoptic camouflage blending them into the night sky. They landed in the deep snow surrounding the estate with barely a sound. The security was impressive: motion sensors, thermal cameras, encrypted comms. It was nothing compared to Covenant orbital defense grids. Chief's AI silently hijacked the security feed, looping empty footage. Weapon guided them through blind spots in the coverage. They were ghosts. Inside the opulent study, Wilfred Malik was on a secured video call, unaware. The narrative is holding. The Council is panicking. Once they force the aliens out, the void will be immense. Our contacts in the various militaries are ready to form the core of a new, unified global security directorate, one we can guide. Chief stepped out of the shadows beside the fireplace. The other Spartans materialized at the doors and windows. Malik jolted, his face draining of color. The people on his screen saw only his terror before the feed was cut by Roland. Wilfred Malik. Chief's voice filled the wood-paneled room. You are charged with conspiracy, sedition, and attempting to destabilize global security. You will come with us. Malik sputtered, reaching for a panic button under his desk. A single, precise shot from Kodiak's suppressed rifle shattered the device. You have no authority here, Malik blustered. This is an act of war. We are the authority of the ship currently preventing war, Chief stated, stepping forward. He placed a data chip on the desk. This contains all evidence of your financial manipulations, your propaganda campaign, and your family's 70-year alliance with Hydra. It will be delivered to the World Security Council, along with you. Malik's defiance crumpled into despair. He had played the great game from the shadows for a lifetime, and in one silent moment, it was over. He was undone not by a superhero battle, but by the flawless, silent execution of a military operation he never saw coming. As the Spartans escorted the broken man to the extraction point, Chief transmitted to the Infinity. Assets secured. Propaganda source neutralized. Intuit truthful dawn. On Lasky's command, Roland released the real data. Malik's entire plot, timestamps, financial trails, and the unedited, heroic footage of Spartans protecting SHIELD loyalists and Avengers during the helicarrier assault. It flooded the networks, a tsunami of truth washing away the lies. By the time the Pelican returned to the Infinity, the riots were calming. The emergency council vote was postponed indefinitely. The fear was still there, but it had been pointed at the right enemy. On the hangar deck, Steve Rogers was waiting. He saw Malik being led away. Clean? Clean, Chief confirmed. The infection is removed. The patient is stabilized. Steve looked at the Spartan, this soldier who operated in the gray areas between war and peace with such absolute conviction. Pierce said you'd become what people fear. Chief looked down at the earth, then back at Steve. We are what the enemies of peace fear. There is a difference. The line had been held, not with a glorious battle, but with perfect, uncompromising efficiency. The Infinity's guardianship remained, for now. But as Chief returned to his post, he knew Pierce was right about one thing. The quiet moment wouldn't last forever. They had to make it count. 3 months. 92 days of a precarious, unprecedented peace. The UNSC Infinity hung in geosynchronous orbit, a silent sentinel and a busy workshop. Below, the world began the agonizing process of rebuilding trust. The Malik incident had been a cauterizing burn, painful, but it stopped the infection. The exposed conspiracy crippled the political blocs agitating against the Infinity, proving the real threat came from the shadows of Earth, not the stars above it. A new provisional organization was being forged from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ashes. The Global Defense and Reconciliation Directorate, GDRD. Its oversight committee included figures like Steve Rogers, Maria Hill, and representatives from nations untouched by Hydra's deepest rot. The Infinity served as its interim strategic command, with Captain Lasky and Director Fury, now acting as a special liaison, in constant communication. The arrangement was awkward, tense, but functional. For Master Chief, the time was spent in constant motion. He oversaw Spartan training exercises with Avengers teams, a fascinating clash of doctrines. He consulted on the design of Earth's new planetary defense grid, lending UNSC expertise on point defense networks and early warning systems. And he walked the decks of the Infinity, a symbol of steadfastness to the crew and a puzzle to the new human allies. It was during a joint tactical simulation in the Infinity's combat training deck that the next turning point arrived. Steve Rogers, in a powered-down version of his suit, had just been tagged by a Spartan Phase simulated rifle shot. The holographic war zone faded. "You're still leading with the shield," Chief noted, his voice analytical. "It's a strength, but against an opponent who knows to flank or use suppressive fire, it becomes a predictable axis." Steve grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. "Old habits. You'd think after fighting aliens and robots, I'd learn." He looked around at the high-tech arena. "Your people, they fight like a single organism. No hesitation. It's impressive. It's necessary. In our war, hesitation was measured in planetary casualties." Chief paused. "Your way works for this world. The symbol matters as much as the victory." Before Steve could reply, a priority alert overrode all channels. It was Roland, and his voice lacked its usual calm. "Captain Lasky, Master Chief, all senior staff to the bridge immediately. We have an unscheduled slip space rupture forming at Lagrange Point 2. Energy signature is familiar." Chief and Steve exchanged a glance and broke into a run. On the bridge, the main viewer showed the silent starfield near the moon. Then, space itself rippled, twisted, and tore. Not the violent rupture of their own arrival, but a controlled, precise aperture. Through it emerged not a Covenant fleet, not a Forerunner dreadnought, but a single, familiar silhouette. A UNSC Autumn-class heavy cruiser, her hull scorched and pitted from battle, her designation clear, UNSC Pillar of Autumn. A wave of stunned silence hit the bridge. It was impossible. The Autumn had been destroyed during the events of the first Halo array. "Life signs?" Lasky breathed. "Reading multiple human biosigns, Captain," Roland confirmed, his digital face showing uncharacteristic confusion. "Their IFF transponder is active and valid. They are hailing us." The comm crackled, and a voice filled the bridge. A voice weathered by stress and time, but unmistakable to every veteran of the Human Covenant War. "UNSC Infinity, this is Captain Jacob Keyes of the UNSC Pillar of Autumn. We are experiencing navigational irregularities. Is that you, Lasky? Your signature is off the charts." "Captain Keyes, a legend, presumed dead at Alpha Halo." Lasky found his voice, thick with emotion. "Captain Keyes, this is Captain Thomas Lasky aboard the Infinity. You are not in your home universe. Explain your situation." A longer pause. "Our slipspace drive sustained a direct hit from Covenant plasma torpedoes during an engagement near Reach. We initiated an emergency jump. The drive malfunctioned. We've been adrift in a non-baryonic stream for what our clocks say is 3 weeks. We just followed the strongest UNSC transponder signal we could find." Keyes' voice sharpened. "Did you say, not in our home universe?" As Lasky provided a frantic, compressed summary, Chief's mind raced. This wasn't an accident. the simultaneous malfunction of two slip-space drives, drawing two ships from the same universe but different times to the same point in another. The probability was infinitesimal. This was manipulation. But by whom or what? The answer came from an unexpected source. In the Infinity Science Lab, Tony Stark and the ship's lead physicist, Dr. Tilson, were analyzing the residual energy from the Autumn's arrival. "Chief, you need to see this," Tony said, his face lit by holographic data. "The Autumn's rupture, it's laced with a specific energy signature. We've seen traces of it before. It's the same exotic particle decay we found in the wreckage of the Forerunner artifact that brought you here." Chief's blood ran cold. The artifact wasn't a random generator. It was a beacon, or a fishing hook. "Exactly." Tony pulled up a simulation. "I think the artifact reacted to the unique energy of an infinity stone. The Tesseract's space stone energy that was all over New York after the invasion. It created a bridge. But it didn't just pull you through randomly. It sent out a resonant pulse back through the dimensional walls, a pulse tuned to UNSC slipspace drives. The Autumn, crippled and mid-jump, was caught in the wake. It reeled them in. The implication was staggering. Their arrival had consequences that rippled back through dimensional physics, snaring another lost ship from their past. On the viewer, shuttlecraft were already moving between the two ships. The reunion was bittersweet. Crew members from the Infinity, many of whom had served with or known crew from the Autumn, greeted faces they thought were lost to history. For Chief, seeing Captain Keyes, alive, younger than the man in his memory files, was a dislocation as profound as arriving in this universe. In a secure briefing room, Keyes sat with Lasky, Chief, and the Avengers. He looked weary but keenly intelligent, absorbing the reality of their situation. "So the war is over," Keyes said softly, learning of the Covenant's defeat years in his future. "We bought that future with our lives. Good." He then fixed his gaze on the Earth displayed on screen. "And now we're protectors of another humanity. A strange duty." "It is our duty," Chief said. Keyes nodded slowly. Then he delivered the second shock. "We weren't empty when we jumped. We were running a combat evacuation from Reach. In our cargo bay, we have cryotubes, civilian evacuees, and the remaining Spartan 2 candidates from Dr. Halsey's program. The ones too, young for the final augmentations when the Covenant attacked." The air left the room. More Spartans, children like Chief had been, saved from a glassed world. Steve Rogers stood up abruptly, his chair scraping. "Children? You have child soldiers on that ship?" "They are refugees," Keyes corrected firmly, though his eyes showed pain. "The program was contentious, but they are alive because of it. And now they are here." The moral complexity of the UNSC's existence, which had been an abstract debate, now had a face. Several young, confused faces, about to be thawed into a universe utterly alien to them. "This changes everything," Fury stated. "The political calculus just got a lot more complicated." "It does not change our mission," Chief said, his voice brooking no argument. "They are under our protection. They are our responsibility." In the days that followed, the Infinity and the Autumn became a linked pair of islands from a lost sea. The arrival of the Autumn was kept classified, a secret held by the GDRD and the UNSC. The children, 23 boys and girls between the ages of 6 and 12, were carefully revived and placed under the care of Infinity's medical and psychological staff. They were disoriented, scared, but disciplined in a way that broke Steve's heart. Chief found himself standing outside their observation room more often than he'd admit. He saw himself in their stoic silence. He also saw a future he never had. A chance for them to be something other than weapons. It was Steve who proposed the solution. He approached Chief after a long council meeting about the children's fate. They need a home, Chief, not a barracks, not a training ground. They need to learn what they're fighting for, not just how to fight. You are suggesting we integrate them into your world, Chief said. I'm suggesting we give them a choice. Fury has a location, a former SHIELD retreat upstate. Secure, remote, but a place with grass and trees. We staff it with teachers, counselors, and yes, some of your people to help them adjust. They learn history, science, art. They also learn control, discipline, and if they choose when they're older, they can train on their terms. It was a radical departure from UNSC protocol. It was also undeniably right. Lasky, after long consultation with Keyes and his own conscience, agreed. The October Initiative was born. Not a military program, but a sanctuary. The night before the first group of children were to be transferred to the surface, Chief visited their quarters. A young boy bearing the serious demeanor of someone carrying a great weight looked up at the towering Spartan. "Are we going to fight the aliens here too, sir?" the boy asked. Chief knelt, bringing himself to the boy's eye level, a gesture few had ever seen. "Your fight is over," he said, the words feeling strange but true. "Your duty now is to learn, to grow, to decide what kind of person you want to be. We will make sure you have that chance." The boy searched the impassive gold visor, then slowly nodded. As Chief left, he passed Bucky Barnes in the hallway. Barnes, now wearing a simple black uniform of the GDRD's Special Operations Division, was looking at the children with an expression of hard-won understanding. "Getting a second chance looks good on them," Barnes said quietly. "It does," Chief agreed. On the bridge, Lasky reviewed the latest slipspace calibration report. "Roland, latest estimate?" "The dimensional constants are nearly mapped, Captain. We can calculate a safe return vector in approximately 4 to 6 weeks. The Autumn's drive is repairable. They can follow. They could go home. The news should have been a relief. Instead, it settled like a weight. They had built something here. They had ties, responsibilities." Lasky looked at the holographic Earth, at the fragile peace they shepherded, at the tiny sanctuary they had helped create. He thought of the Autumn, a stunning ghost from a war they'd won, and the Infinity, a beacon in a war they'd prevented. "Prepare the calculations, Roland," Lasky said finally, "but file them under conditional execution. We leave only when our replacement is ready, and this Earth is secure." He turned to Chief, who had just entered. "It seems our tour of duty here is extended, Master Chief." Chief stood beside his captain, looking down at the world they had, for a time, adopted. The battle was never truly over. It just changed theaters, from a war for survival against aliens to a fight for a future against chaos and fear, from soldiers to guardians. "The mission continues, sir," Master Chief said. And in the silent, star-dusted void between universes, something that had cast a fishing hook and reeled in 2 lost ships watched, assessed, and waited. Its experiment in cross-universal causality was yielding fascinating results. The infinity variable was proving more resilient, more interesting than anticipated. But that was a concern for another day. For now, there was peace to keep, children to protect, and a long road home still to chart. The UNSC Infinity did not become conquerors or overlords. It became a scaffold upon which a wounded Earth could rebuild. Its presence, once a shockwave of fear, transformed into a symbol of resilient hope. Master Chief and the Spartans proved that strength, when coupled with unwavering principle, could be a foundation rather than a weapon. The Avengers learned that some threats required the cold precision of a soldier as much as the heart of a hero. Together, they forged a new template for protection. The children of the October Initiative would grow up not as weapons, but as bridges. Individuals who understood the cost of war and the priceless value of peace. The slip space coordinates for home waited, a silent promise in the Infinity's navigation computer. But departure was no longer an escape. It would be a choice made from a position of strength and completion. The UNSC had arrived as lost warriors. They would leave as steadfast allies, having forever altered the destiny of a universe not their own. The bond forged in crisis would echo across the dimensional divide, a testament that humanity, in any reality, could choose to be better.